Hello, everyone. My name is Colin Joyce. I'm a fellow with the Contemplative Studies Centre. I'd like to welcome you to this guided meditation session presented by the Contemplative Studies Centre at the University of Melbourne. I'd just like to take a few moments to acknowledge the traditional owners, traditional custodians of the land in which I am, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I'd just like to acknowledge their elders of the past, present, and those who are emerging. So we're delighted to welcome Anton Eastick, who will be facilitating the Insight Meditation series over the next 6 weeks. Anton is a trained meditation teacher who leads retreats, day-long and courses at Melbourne Insight Meditation. MIM, Melbourne Insight Meditation, is a volunteer-based not-for-profit organisation that offers a program of weekly meditation sits, events, and is a growing community interested in exploring the contemporary application of authentic Buddhist teachings in their lives. Insight meditation is a simple technique which has been adapted from the Vipassana tradition that had been practiced in Asia for more than 2,600 years. Beginning with a focus of attention on the breath, the practice concentrates and calms the mind. It allows us to see through the mind's conditioning and thereby to be more present in the moment. So if you have any questions during the session, please place them in the Q&A or write them down before you place them in the Q&A, and Anton will address as many of these as possible towards the end. So please, welcome Anton.
So let me unmute myself. It makes it far more effective. Thank you, Colin, and thanks for inviting me along, and Kathleen for your help so far in getting this together. So brief overview of what I do anyway is, like Colin said, I'm an insight meditation teacher based in Melbourne. I'm in Northcote, not far from the uni actually, and I also have here, and I'm sitting in my therapy room right now, I practice a form of psychotherapy based on mindfulness, and many other aspects of modern day psychotherapy. So essentially it's based on releasing old patterns and ways of relating and thinking and speaking that are not so helpful, and at the same time helping to cultivate new ways of doing things, building other skills of how to relate in the world that will, you might say, lessen the suffering that we live in. So essentially it's all about relational joy. That's what we're moving towards. So in the couples therapy I work with, the bottom line really is about supporting relational joy and a simple cherishing of life, of each other. So with that in mind, let me also talk about the simple outlines for this course. It really is, like I sort of said in the outline, sort of hopefully wanting to share a few skills for calmness and clarity for busy people, which I'm imagining that would take in most of us here. So it will be based on the simple practices of insight meditation. So it's an introduction, and there's many variations on these techniques, many variations. We'll be following themes that are in the Buddha's discourse on mindfulness. And it's important to know you don't have to be Buddhist or even remotely interested in that to get benefit from this. We don't sort of expect that, or not even interested in it really. It's just a way of learning how to relate to the world. So there's a few basic things I want to touch on here as a sort of outline about how the next 6 weeks will go. There's a bigger process always of, like if you came on a retreat, we'll be looking at first step is this sense of helping things to calm down, helping the busy mind to settle a little bit. We might even know that intrinsically. We all know this process of, like, if you lie down next to a beautiful river or a stream or something settles. something relaxes down, we go into the forest, something intrinsically will start to settle inside in nature like that. And that's really what it's about, the first step. And you don't need to be told it feels good. You know it feels good. Hop into a hammock if anyone likes hammocks. I love hammocks. So calming is an important step, but it's not necessarily the end goal, but it's very much part of the goal as well. So that might be all that's interesting for you. And I would say, great, just go with that. That's enough. You don't need to do more. But if you do want to go more, then there's other things that you can do as well. So after the mind has settled, or being is settled, like the nervous system is settled, we can then start on gaining more clarity by understanding and looking simply at what's the truth of what's here in the mind and body right now. What's the simple truth? We'll be doing a little exercise for that in the second half of today. Simply looking at the mind and body, what's here right now. Then once we have a sense of that, then also what's needed? What's the next step? What would be helpful here? What's beneficial? So it's if we just stayed at that level of calming, then we may not get to that next step of what actually might need to happen here to bring about, to meet the next part of life in the way that it's needed. So in that way, then, is there something we might need to let go of? And is there something that once we let go of, we just be careful about not picking it up again, not building that bad habit again. And then turning towards other things. Is there other good habits we can develop here that would help to bring a buoyancy of the heart, buoyancy to our way of being, a lightness or more strength or more courage, a little more determination. The sort of list goes on. So what is it then that is needed on the next step? So these meditations are offered as practices rather than a must-do. So the encouragement is just give it a try. So in that way, I'll be keeping it really, really simple today. One practice, give this a try in the next 7 days and see how it goes. So for anyone who hasn't got, say, some guidance or one-on-one with meditation, if you'd like to go much deeper into that, I would really encourage you to find someone to work with. It can be super helpful in the early days in particular to have someone would say, maybe not there, go over here, try this, maybe a little bit more effort here, a little bit less there, or maybe you're trying a bit too hard, whatever it is. So a teacher or a guide on the way can be very, very, very helpful. So with that in mind, the next step is then the framework about what we're working with. So in Buddhist practice, to give a little framework here, we're often invited to take refuge in 3 things. And it's called the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So I want to just put that into everyday language so it makes sense and can be a support to us. Because if we hear those words, we're sort of new to those things, it just may not make any sort of sense at all. So I urge you to forget in a way, let go of that language of having to need to find something here that I have to do, but really get a sense of what the deeper meaning is inside of you. So firstly, a refuge is a place of safety. So what we're being encouraged towards there is what is that safety? To look, where is that safety in life? That sense of safety. And the first one, so we take refuge in the Buddha. So if we think this is the historical Buddha, we can ask, how would that be helpful? And I would say, how right you are. Exactly. But if we look at the meaning of the word Buddha, then it's much more helpful. The meaning of the word Buddha is that Bud is awake. If you're hearing this for the first time, just really let that sink in. It's like a sense of presence. It's a sense of awareness. Bud is about awareness. And Buddha means just someone who is aware or awake is another way they use it. So when we're taking refuge, we're letting ourselves take refuge in that place inside of us that is aware and awake. It's present. We have that ability in us to be present. And that's what we're taking refuge in. Sometimes more traditional people might be a bit shocked by that sort of way of looking at it. But I find this very helpful for our cultural ways, and because we don't have a history of Buddhism in particular, I find this super, super helpful. This actually comes from the Thai forest tradition, so it does come from a traditional background. So the second one we take refuge in is called the Dharma, and that really has a few simple meanings. One, which I think is really helpful, it's called nature, often translated as the way things are. But you think of nature of like, it's just like as simple as like, this is a part of nature. This body here is a part of nature. Everything is a part of nature. And so what we're doing is we're taking refuge in the truth of how things are in this moment, not the sort of way we would like them to be or the way they used to be, but as they are right now. So we're taking a refuge in that, and there's a certain safety in that because we're not fighting against something that's not there. And the last one is Sangha. So with this one, then, we're taking refuge in this. So Sangha means, it's an old word from, again, from India. It means the community of people who are interested in truth. The community of people are interested in integrity in life. And integrity means that one's inner life is integrated with one's activities and behavior. So one's inner life and values is integrated with our values and how we live our life. Yeah. So obviously we can have inner conflicts and angry thoughts and things, and all these things will probably come up in meditation. However, if we keep coming back to those values, they can be our guiding light about where we're headed to, where we want to go. So in relation to other people, which I think is the main purpose here, it's how we are with our family and friends, the results of these practices here. In relation to those, that means we don't lie. We don't gossip about people, as in sort of bad-mouthing them in particular. We don't manipulate others. We don't steal from others. We don't take things that are not ours. Yeah, and it's about keeping a clear head about things too. So we're careful about intoxicants of any sort, so they don't take us off into unskillful, harmful ways of doing things. This is integrity. And when we're taking refuge in that, we're taking refuge in those sort of people who help us feel that safety, and we're committed to creating that safety as well. So I think it's a very beautiful way of looking at things. We're moving from a sense of perfectionism into a sense of reality and humbleness. Humbleness is a sense of like I have these values and ideals, but maybe I just don't quite get there all the time. I think we all know that one, huh? So that's not being caught then in humiliation, but understanding that my actions don't always meet my aspirations, and so how can I then keep being humbled by that, and being humbled by that, then come back into connection with whatever is needed, whatever repair might be needed. So we're not then using meditation to try to be the best, the most extraordinary person in the world. I would say it's much more about being human, about relational kindness. Again, that as we come to that, we can be a respect towards each other. And that respect engendering relational joy. So let's start with a practice. So wherever you are, you might, if it feels okay, to close your eyes. And this first practice we're going to do here is called pause, ask, and listen. This is the only one we're going to do today. If you have any questions come up, please maybe even have a pen there and write it down. So get that question out of your head. Just write it down so you can ask, put it into the chat at the end of the program. So this practice, it's a very portable practice. You can take it anywhere with you. It's brief. So you could do it standing, sitting, lying down. It's not limited to a place. So the first step here, pause. Stop doing and talking. That means, pause means to stop doing and talking and pause. And as that shift happens from doing and talking into stopping, allow yourself to relax. Give yourself that gentle permission. It's okay to stop for a moment and relax. So relax the muscles in your jaw, the shoulders, the back of the neck. Perhaps letting the throat softly open, relax, soften. Then the muscles around the face, and the eyes, and then behind the eyes. So we're pausing and relaxing. And then you might allow the exhale to be a guide to relaxing more of the body. And that exhale, as it comes out, as we turn towards the body, might just go all the way down to the belly. And anywhere else you might feel tension or holding on. And as you relax, pay attention to the feeling of the body. How does the body feel? The sensations. So in the next step is we're going to widen the lens of your attention. It's almost like we're opening the lens of attention to take in more of the body. You may even feel it almost like there's a sense from the core of our body, something's opening up to take in the periphery. Might be the arms, the legs, the feet. We're widening the lens, and we can take 15-20 seconds to do that. Sometimes in widening that lens of attention, it's almost like then we're taking in the periphery of our experience a little more, our peripheral vision. The eyes are open. You might open to what's behind you or to the side of you. I'm giving you a little more time here than you might do this in everyday life, or as you get better at it, this skill. Just opening up to include the whole of the body. And the next is to ask this question. So we're asking here, the next step. What's happening for me now? Simple question. What's happening for me now? You may find that there's a very busy train of thoughts there, and that's very common. And if there is that express train there, you might just sum it up in one word, like busy, or enthusiastic, or eager, maybe irritable, annoyed. What's happening for me right now? And take your time to get it clear. Be clear on what that is. Sometimes it can be that you don't know, so we name that. I don't know. That's the experience here. Or confused, another way of not knowing. Or doubt, anxiety. And that brings us to the next part of this. So instead of a thought sometimes, you might experience an emotion or mood. Then give that a word that fits. The question I like to ask is, what's the mood right now? Is it sad, happy, excited, disappointed, anxious? And just noticing that even by asking, it might change, and it does. Sometimes it won't, sometimes it will. In either case, we allow the question to move through awareness, where it might come into contact with thought, sensations, impulses. It might, the question, what's happening now, might just go around in a certain air of uncertainty. The point of the question is that it shifts attention into a conscious space or awareness. It's like a strategy to move away from being the thought, being the one who just thinks, but to notice, oh, there's thinking here. We're moving from saying being confused to naming confusion. That there's a not knowing, and we can know, oh, there's I don't know. So we just simply acknowledge what comes. So for a moment, just watching or listening to what that question brought to light, rather than engaging in thinking about what that question brought. So we avoid judging the thoughts, judging the moods, or even judging the judging. Just notice, judging mind. The main thing is that we've shifted to paying attention to the mind and body. We're relating to what's happening rather than being what's happening. So we give it a simple label: busy, eager, confused, irritable. Try not to react or avoid it. And you may sense, as you do this, just a simple calm or acceptance or a clarity just for what's here. Just to name it. There's anger here. And with that, there can be kind of sometimes a deeper breath, kind of almost like a relief to not be the angry person, but to name, there's anger here. So what this is doing is enabling us to set up for the next step of the process, which I just want to go over in the next 7 or 8 minutes. Any questions around this? Now might be a good time to sort of just start writing them down so that when Cullen opens up the chat, you can pop it in there. So once we have a sense of what is there now, again, it may be, I don't know, and that's what's there, and that's okay. We could then ask well, what might benefit me now? It could simply be, if there's anger, what might be needed here? Is there anger that couldn't come out with someone when I was talking to them? Anger about what they did, but I didn't know till later. So we start sort of pulling it apart and it's like, what might be beneficial? In general, some longer breaths? Is it some more kindness towards myself here? Would I benefit from some more kindness? I'm going to say there's not many instances where that's not helpful. Or is there something that I'm avoiding and I may need just a bit more courage to face it if it just keeps happening all the time? Or do I need to spend a little bit more time just really focusing the mind here on the breath? Just to give the mind a foundation here so it doesn't jump everywhere. I'm just sort of just getting distracted all the time. And would it be helpful to then just soften into the body, relax the agitated mind, and just come back into this moment? Or do I need a fresh perspective from someone else? So this answer will only be yours. Only for you, only relevant for you. So what might benefit right now? But the main thing here is to pause, ask, and listen. This is the main skill encouraging from this practice. Pause, ask, and listen. And you could do this 10 times a day or more. When you wake up, when you get up, when you've washed and dressed, pause, ask, and listen. What's here now? What's happening for me now? So this is a getting to know myself process, getting to know this body, this mind, these emotions, to name them. Some people like to set a timer that can go off occasionally to get you to do that. And sometimes when it might be helpful could be perhaps where we know there's conflict or where it might be just starting to brew in us. Pause and ask and listen. Or when you're feeling emotionally uncomfortable or anxious. Or where there's an urge to just keep going to the fridge, perhaps, to get more food as a way of soothing something inside of us. We could ask, oh, what really is happening for me here? What really might be beneficial? Would it be food, or would it be, a walk? Would it be a soothing of some anxious part inside? So pausing moments where we might possibly go into places where we regret something we do or say or think can save us a lot of trouble and gives you a chance to see things a little differently behind the normal habits that we might go into. Generally, it's not a practice to sustain for a long time. This is like short-ish practice. Sometimes if you pause too long, you might actually be stuck in something, or find that you've moved into another mind state and your mind is wandering around. You've sort of got a little distracted inside. So there's some limitations on this as well. It's not just a one-size-fits-all. Pause, ask, listen. What's there? What's the body needing right now? What's the mind needing? What's the heart needing? You could also ask, what's happening in the heart right now? What's there in the heart? What does the heart need? So next week, we'll be going into a connected practice, and that's called Connect and Strengthen. So with that, then, that'll be like a little bit longer. To connect to the body with strengthening qualities inside, strengthening qualities of the heart, qualities of our being. Like I was alluding to before, some of these qualities might be, say, determination, or there could be compassion, it could be mindfulness, it could be patience. So just the last thing I want to leave you with, last thing to leave you with, is this sense of there's never really a one-size-fits-all thing here. So see what works for you. It could be just a tiny little one thing I said that's helpful. Go with that. If you just practice one thing, that could make a huge difference. So thank you, everyone. If you have questions, now's a great time to start putting them into the chat. Cullen will open that up. I think we're at time. Cullen, is that right?
Yeah, we're getting close.
Uh-huh.
Got another 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, the teaching part is finished though for now, right? Yeah. Okay. So, questions as yet? Anyone, please go ahead. And far away, was there anything, Cullen, you had from that practice?
Yes, thank you for that, Anton. I had just a quick question about maybe when you're talking about what is happening for me, and you kind of make that start to look inside. And I just wanted to, if you could comment a little bit on some ways of dealing with things that you know you have to do, so that like I know I have to do, or I have a feeling that I know it's actually good for me to feel to some extent, or how do I kind of approach things that or thoughts or experience, things that are happening for me that I know I need to deal with, but I maybe need to place aside for the time. Does that make sense as a question?
I think so, because there was two things you said, things to do or things to feel, or was that, or did you mean a to-do list more?
Yeah, almost. It's like if I so my sense was okay. So I have an emotion that I'm quite aware of at the time, and it's I'm checking in on myself, and I know that in a sense I'm spending time a bit more quietly. But if I have a feeling like I'm angry, but I feel like I'm justified in that anger a little bit. So how do I deal with those kinds of thoughts, which are a little bit hard to put down, but
Yeah,
because kind of I feel like, oh yeah, I kind of should do that, or I need to do that or
yeah.
something.
Mm. Like how could they, or
Yeah, yeah. Just it's like
that
you're
sort
not
of thing.
totally in the wrong, but it's kind of also, should I be feeling this now? Or
Yeah, yeah. I've, I think I have a pretty good idea of what you mean. Um, so I think there's two things that stand out a bit for, or a few. One would be, first of all, we can't deny what we feel. Uh, so I think if irritation is there or anger, or like anger in a way has this like spectrum, you might say, from like mild annoyance and frustration through to outright rage, you might say. Um, so I think it's important first to check in, well, is that the truth of your experience there right now? And great. If that is, I would say you just have to sort of admit that. There's no point going past that in a way. And then we could sort of look at it a bit closer and say, well, what type of anger is it? Possibly. And is it like you said, is it uh, I don't know if this is the case, but is it like a self-righteous anger? Is it
mm, mm,
an anger where I'm trying to control someone and they're not doing what I want them to do? Yeah, it's like a frustration and sometimes can be like a sense of actually control, like when I'm trying to
mm,
control someone who doesn't want to be controlled is another way of looking at it. We're getting angry, for instance, at our dog for running away, but the dog doesn't know anything but just be itself. So that's where I sort of want to drill down a little bit and say, well, what am I trying to do here? What am I trying to achieve? What's this anger saying? Or it could be an anger that's standing up for me where I've been pushed over too much and I'm sort of just pushing back at that. Or a sense of being caged in a corner. I just want to get out of it. Or it could be an anger that's coming from pain, like a victim sort of lashing out sort of anger. Um, we want to know the nuance of it. So with that one, I think it can be sort of super helpful with all of them just to see, well, if that anger had words, what might it say? Big
mm,
classic line we'd use in the therapy, for instance. If it had words, what would it say?
mm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does
Mm.
that help?
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. It's there's a few questions here now, I see.
Sure.
Um, so there's also another one that's kind of connected to distraction. So Anonymous says, once we have identified what we might need or what would be beneficial during practice, are we meant to immediately take action or plan it for later? Yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, I would say that's, entirely up to you.
mm,
Do you want to take action straight away? That's up to you. There's no, again, one size fits all. If you're wanting to have sort of like a bit of a longer practice, just go for that. This is where um, the development of wisdom comes. If you're always someone that takes action straight away, maybe it's not a good idea to take action straight away. Maybe you want to pause a bit and like have an answer. Oh, should I go on that overseas holiday next week on a whim, even though it feels like a great thing? I don't know.
mm, mm,
Um, if we need more spontaneity in our life, maybe it is a great thing. Maybe it's not. But it's a very individual thing, that one, I think.
mm, mm,
If we're someone who finds it hard to pause and stop, and we find we're suffering from impetuousness or the actions that are a bit like that, then, um, I think each person can find their own way with that. Mm.
Thank you. So I have a question from Dee as well. So Dee was saying, after 10 minutes or so, I had difficulty reining in my thoughts, which kept rudely intruding. So she asks, they ask, how do I maintain focus on the here and now?
Well, we're covering more of that next week. Like this is like a sense of pause and asking things. So after 10 minutes, yeah, it is likely that's going to happen, um, and completely normal. So one of the things we can do in this practice is if we've got a very busy mind, we just say, well, oh, there's lots of thoughts here. Naming that. The thinking mind is a little bit hard to slow down.
Mm.
But that's where we might take awareness away from the thoughts. They will come back. Uh, we're not trying to control the thoughts, but we are directing attention. Sort of slight difference.
Mm. Mm.
If we're just coming from our thinking mind, if we just think or perceive ourselves to be the thinking mind, then we'll always be in those thoughts. But the idea is that we're being aware of the thoughts and the mind that thinks. But even though that's there, that doesn't mean that we can't actually direct attention somewhere else. So that could be to the body, could be to what we listen to, sounds, what we see, what we smell, just whatever comes through the senses. So it's really more a sense about learning to direct awareness.
Mm. Mm.
Thoughts will always be there, and that's okay.
Thank you, Anton. Helena had some thoughts. They thank you for the questions and the practice, and said it's very helpful to focus and be aware of myself. Paul also has a question about the meditation practice. So Paul asks, in insight meditation, what is insight, or what is meant by insight?
Yeah, good question. So it comes from the word vipassana. That you might have heard of these 10-day retreats that are around about called vipassana. And so the word insight is a English translation of a word from that word, vipassana, which means to look clearly into. That's really what it means. So insight really is that sense of what we see when we look at things with honesty. Yeah.
Fantastic, very clear. Natasha has a question too. How long should we take to go through this practice? I think you said it was a shorter one, but but should we sit longer if we're feeling a lot happening at the time?
Again, if it's helpful, like this was like that sense of keeping it super simple. This was that tying into the sense of calmness and clarity for busy people. So that's why I kept this practice would be like as long as you want, but this was really at the beginning part of things. It's the intro. We're setting the relationship here with the body, with the mind. And we do that by asking this question, what's happening here, by pausing and seeing what's there. So of course you can do much longer if you want to, but then after that's happened, you might want to just give the mind one basis or foundation to rest on, which can be the breath. It can be listening to things. That can be a meditation. It can be just like seeing things clearly with the eyes. It's a meditation. Or smell, or movement. Any way to direct the mind. Hopefully it helps.
Thank you, Anton. We have one more question, and then I think we'll be at time. So I hope we can. It's a bit of an important question. So, when you identify an emotion, feeling, say stress or frustration, what are some suggestions to acknowledge this or take action if this feeling might be causing something like a knot in your stomach or some kind of stress?
Okay. Well, again, it would, if there's something that you're finding very hard to deal with, I would suggest getting some help somewhere with that. That's always important. Knot in the stomach might suggest, I'm guessing, anxiety of some sort, which can be, which will show itself physically as well. So if that's the case, there's a few meditations that may be helpful. One is called soft belly meditation. I'm not sure if there's one of those on my website, but on YouTube I know for sure there will be, by a guy called Stephen Levine. Soft belly meditation. Then, and how to be with anxiety, so we're starting to go into other skills that are sort of the next part of the next process. So anxiety would be, again, we have to find out, well, let's sort of get a bit clearer, what's the anxiety about? Is it about letting people, fearful of being criticized, fearful of letting people down, not measuring up? So good to find out what that is, and then find them what the antidote might be. Sometimes the antidote might be saying like, oh, I'm just enough as I am. I'm enough. I'm okay as I am. And finding a way that not like a sense of a affirmation, but more a sense of a release of pressure. Anxiety has this sort of pressure that builds. So we're trying to sort of find out how do we build that pressure inside so that we can then sort of learn to release it as well. So it's like the nervous system getting overactivated, and we're sort of trying to bring it down to sort of something a bit more serene and calm. There's a few things to it, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for that answer, Anton. So thank you, Anton, and thank you for everyone who joined us today. The Contemplative Study Centre is pleased to host these sessions for our community, and your feedback means a lot to us. So please do take our survey when you have the time. So we look forward to seeing you again next week. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you, Colin. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Anton.